I'm Ben Meiselas from the MeidasTouch Network. The House of Representatives Ways and Means Committee has just voted to release Donald Trump's tax returns and his corporate tax returns and all of the tax returns of the businesses affiliated with him to make those public in a 24-16 vote following 3 hours and 20 minutes of closed session deliberation, which took place on Tuesday. This follows years of the House Ways and Means Committee trying to get their hands on Donald Trump's tax returns. And despite the fact that every single United States president since Nixon forthcomingly made their tax returns public, Donald Trump refused to try to conceal his tax schemes from the public. But now we will have a modicum of transparency thanks to the diligent work of the House of Representatives Ways and Means Committee. Now, the House Ways and Means Committee didn't just get their hands on these records. They had to fight each and every step of the way as Donald Trump and his corrupt lackeys tried to block turning over the tax returns. The effort by the House Ways and Means Committee began in earnest in 2018 after the Democrats took control over the House of Representatives. The House Ways and Means Committee, led by Congressman Richard Neal, had to file a litigation against Donald Trump and the Treasury Department after the Treasury Secretary, which oversees the IRS, Steve Mnuchin, refused to turn over Donald Trump's tax returns, citing that there was no legitimate legislative purpose for it, despite the fact that built into the IRS code is the fact that there is a legitimate legislative purpose. The House Ways and Means Committee is permitted to get their hands on these tax records and to make them public of a president as part of the presidential audit functions that are supposed to be conducted by the IRS. So Steve Mnuchin blocked it. The House Ways and Means Committee had to file a federal lawsuit. President Joe Biden takes over in January of 2021. He, of course, disagrees with the unlawful policies by Steve Mnuchin and Trump, and Biden's Treasury Department says, okay, we're okay to turn this over. Donald Trump then intervened and filed a lawsuit in his individual capacity to try to block it. Trump lost in front of a Trump appointee federal judge. Trump lost in front of the D.C. Circuit Court of Appeals, which oversees the federal judge in D.C., where Trump lost in front of. Trump tried to appeal before an en banc panel of all of the D.C. Circuit Court of Appeals. That was denied. Donald Trump then filed an emergency application fairly recently. You'll recall we covered it here on the MeidasTouch Network before the United States Supreme Court. The United States Supreme Court deliberated for a short period of time, asked the parties to brief the issue, and then rejected Donald Trump's request for a motion to block turning over these records to the House Ways and Means Committee, and the Supreme Court did that with no notable dissents, meaning they did it unanimously, and therefore the House Ways and Means Committee got their hands on Trump's tax returns. They then deliberated over what to do with these records over the past couple of weeks. Today they held this session, mostly held in a closed-door session, and in a vote of 24-16, since the Democrats control the House of Representatives still and control the House Ways and Means Committee, they voted to make these records to the public, holding that there is an important public purpose that is necessary to release these records. I mean, here you have the fact that Donald Trump has engaged corruptly with his tax returns. He has been found guilty, his organization, that is, has been found guilty on 17 felony counts in connection with a fraudulent tax scheme in New York this past month. Every single president has released their tax returns. Donald Trump's wealth essentially stems from all of his tax chicanery and his tax manipulation. So there is an important transparency function being played here. And absolutely, the public deserves to know the tax situation of the President of the United States. When you are a public servant, that must mean something. A public servant. You are not supposed to act in your own interest against the interests of the United States. And you have all of these Republicans who are just like, to hell with our democracy at this point. They're willing to anoint kings and emperors and to have America become a fascistic state. And they've been saying, and this is what they've been arguing all day on Tuesday, what a terrible precedent this would set by releasing Donald Trump's tax returns to the public. Why would it set a terrible precedent? President Biden released his tax returns publicly already. Barack Obama released his tax returns publicly already. George W. Bush did. President Bill Clinton did. George H.W. Bush did. Ronald Reagan did. Jimmy Carter did. I could go back to all of the presidents. They all released it. They're not involved in corporate entanglements with foreign nations. I know that that's something that the MAGA Republicans like to say because they like to project, but President Biden, Obama, everyone, they've, in a very forthcoming manner, they've shown all of their tax returns. They've made it available to the public. It does not set a bad precedent that future presidents would have to do this. In fact, it sets the right precedent. All presidents should have to release their tax returns publicly. There should be legislation that comes from this that makes that an absolute legislative requirement, that if you're going to run, you need to disclose those things. Like, it seems like the presidency and becoming a member of Congress are the only areas where you could just get away with things that us, people who work other jobs, we can never get away with, nor should we ever get away with. But when you become a member of Congress or you become the president, you could all of a sudden get away with it, right? We did the report here of that MAGA Republican congressman-elect from New York's 3rd Congressional District, George Santos, who ostensibly lied about his entire resume. No background checks, no nothing. He's permitted to become a member of Congress, lied that he went to Baruch College, lied that he worked at Citigroup, lied that he worked at Goldman Sachs, apparently lied that he had this pet charity. The only reference to some charity was an event he threw in 2017 where the animal rescue group that supposedly worked with his pet charity never even received any money at all. Yet that MAGA Republican can become a member of Congress. Donald Trump couldn't get a security clearance if he tried, yet he could become the president of the United States. That is absolutely absurd. This is a vital precedent that needs to be set. And the fact that Republicans don't want it tells you a lot about them. They don't want transparency. They are okay with people having foreign entanglements with Saudi Arabia and other foreign regimes with adverse interests to the United States of America. Here, let me play the clip right now from the ranking member from the House of Representatives for the Republicans. So this is the top Republican, Kevin Brady, who warns that by releasing Trump's tax returns, it could lead to the release of things like the tax returns of, get this, Supreme Court justices. Play the clip.
Going forward, the majority chairman of the House Ways and Means Committee and the Senate Finance Committee will have nearly unlimited power to target and make public the tax returns of private citizens. And not just private citizens, political enemies, business and labor leaders, or even the returns of Supreme Court justices themselves. No party in Congress should have that power. No individuals in Congress should have that power. It's a power to embarrass, to harass, or destroy Americans through disclosure of their tax returns.
Oh, don't threaten me with a good time, Congressmember Kevin Brady. Oh, please don't release the tax returns of the Supreme Court justices. Of course, the Supreme Court justices' tax returns should be made public. It is utterly absurd that apparently $92,000 of Brett Kavanaugh's country club dues were paid off, or $200,000 of his credit card debt was paid off, and $1.2 million of his mortgage was paid off. We should go through all of these MAGA Republican, their tax returns. and frankly, set aside MAGA Republicans, all Supreme Court justices, all federal judges. If you want those positions, you should have to make your tax returns public. They do that in other countries. And it's important for transparency when you take these positions of public trust. Nobody is forcing you to take these positions of public trust. When you are a public servant, you should have to act like one, which is why I think this is a very important step that's been taken today by the House Ways and Means Committee. And if you're against it, you are against transparency. You are against accountability. You are for secretive, backdoor, shady dealing. And this is an important vote by Democrats here. This is an important vote for our country. I'm proud of this vote today, and I'm proud that the public is going to get to see what is in Donald Trump's tax returns. We don't have the deadline of when it's going to be released, but obviously it's likely to be released before the transition of power to the next congressional term. We'll keep you posted here on the MeidasTouch Network of what happens next. I'm Ben Meiselas from the MeidasTouch Network. Hit the subscribe button. We're on our way to 1 million subscribers thanks to your incredible support. Hit the subscribe button. And in addition, check us out at patreon.com/MeidasTouch, patreon.com/MeidasTouch, patreon.com/MeidasTouch. We have lots of exclusive content you could only get at patreon.com/MeidasTouch. But most importantly, help grow this independent media platform because we are not funded by any outside investors at all. We're 100% accountable to you. We're 100% independent. We're 100% crowdfunded. Check it out. Patreon.com/MeidasTouch. Until next time, I'm Ben Meiselas.
Our blue wall stopped the red wave and election deniers got denied election. That's why we're celebrating with the new Democracy Prevails team. We've got lots of work to do, but we should all be proud that when democracy was tested, democracy prevailed. You've earned this. Don't wait. Get yours right now at store.meidastouch.com. That's store.meidastouch.com.